So Donna, you can begin.
Hello everybody, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I think this is a very important event and I think there's going to be more of them. My name is Donna Eiby and I'm from the Future Work Skills Academy, and we are also a nascent venture which is particularly focused on developing work skills of the future, but as they relate to uniquely human skills as opposed to technical skills. So there have been many commanding presentations at today's conference that have painted pictures imagining an XR-fueled learning future. Tyler and my theme is XR and the future of work, and you may have noticed a change in our title if you look up there. So we have approached our presentation as a provocation designed to describe the past so as you consider how you might ensure the learning future that has been painted today is realised. I'll hand over to Tyler.
Again, I'm Tyler and I'm with Collaborative Edge XR, just as a also pretty recent consulting firm here based out of Lethbridge. So today, Don and I, we're presenting, and we do contend that there is a global crisis that has arisen over the last 200 years of exponential technological development. So, well, part of the problem, can technology really be part of the solution? Can it really be an answer to one of humanity's greatest challenges?
After 12,000 years of agrarian existence, humans are now in the technological age. Tyler? Having some technology issues. We have experienced an extraordinary increase in the measures of human well-being, whilst at the same time reporting decreasing engagement at work and school. As we spend most of our waking hours in both these constructs, this disengagement has become a global crisis. Does XR, one of the frontier technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, have the power to reverse this trend? And do you have the power to reignite human engagement? So we live in a time of exponential change and abundance. There's an interesting guy called Lute Milhauser, and he's a researcher who studies risk to human civilization. And last year he embarked on an amateur macro history project, collecting all the data available for 6 different measures of human well-being, which have been summarised actually from 99 sources. These include life expectancy, GDP per capita, the percentage of the population not living in extreme poverty, energy capture, which reflects access to food, livestock, firewood, and in the modern day, electricity. War-making capacity, a measure of technological advancement for which, unfortunately, we have the most historic data. And the percentage of people living in a democracy. It's startling. Of these measures, human beings have never had it so good. So just as an explanation, we have minus 1,000 on the left-hand side, and on the right, you'll see in 1760, which happens to be the time of the first industrial revolution, these 6 metrics, human beings absolutely took off. So we bumbled around for 12,000 years, and then suddenly, in the last 200 years, on the measures of these human well-being, we have done extremely well, as human beings you'd think. But on the same conversation, but using different metrics, we're increasingly disengaged and suffering as human beings. So this is the not so good news. Despite the extraordinary advancements in human well-being, we have other metrics that tell a different story. So in the first instance, at work, we are disengaged. So you can see from 2000 up until basically now, Generally around the world, this is Gartner research, at work, about 80% of us are either completely disengaged or actively disengaged. When it comes to school, we tell a similar story. This graph also by Gartner. Hello.
Oh.
It makes me laugh that we still have problems with slides backwards and forwards, it's respective. Oh, there we go, hello. So, here we have school. It says a similar story. So when we start at primary school, we're really engaged. 76% of us are engaged. And then things start to go down in middle school at 61, and then seniors 44. So at school and at work, we're actively disengaged. And let's talk a little bit about suffering. Next graph, please, Tyler.
Donna, are
What
you
we
on
have
air?
here. No, should I be?
Yes, that microphone and the on air here. Seems
Okay.
oh.
Better?
I'm sure it
Someone's
is.
got a similar? Yeah, okay. So what we have here is data from the World Health Organization. And what we can see here is since 2000, we've just had a slow rise in people's reported mental illness and depression. So what we have here is over 300 million people worldwide who report suffering from depression. And if you unpack that data, you'll see that there are many risk factors for mental health present in the working environment. So let's summarise. I'll let that sink in for you. We're disengaged at work, we're disengaged at school, and we have a significant number of the world's population suffering from mental illness and depression. So it tells a little bit of a different story to Luke's original graph to say that the technological age has lifted human beings, because we can see this from different metrics as we can with everything. So then the question is, why? We'll just wait for why to come up. In order to understand how humans arrived at this point, we need to look to the past, to the genesis of our current work and education systems. And to do that, I'm going to take us through a brief history of human work. So we started back in the 1700s, and for most people would be aware of this, it all started with manufacturing and Ford. And there you can see the Model T Ford. And there were lots of really interesting facts about this innovation, but fundamentally we created from agrarian to standardised work. And there we have on the left-hand side standardised work. At that point, we have what's called Taylorism, which formed a blueprint of work we're still enslaved, and I use the word enslaved, by today, fueled by bias towards industrial measures of efficiency, standardised tasks, deconstructed work into individual elements such as undertaken by different humans. So each person had a part of work to do, whereas in the past we'd often been in control of entire tasks, entire outcomes. This was breaking it down into standardisation. And at that point we set the stage for automation. So in automation, again, and very much US driven, what we have here is the 1962 Chevy Impala, which was actually the first car ever built through automation, and that was in Detroit by General Motors, and that was in the 60s. So from automation, we then moved to adaptive processes where we are today. So this built on the previous two technological waves. Adaptive technology, in particular cyber-physical systems, which is the robots and the internet effectively, introduced cognitive automation in manufacturing. So suddenly we're not just replacing physical labour, but cognitive labour. So machines can leverage unprecedented computing power, machine learning, to adapt manufacturing processes to optimise productivity. So again, it's about productivity. Machines that can think where we used to think. It's a significant breakthrough. But simultaneously, we have modelled services that grew out of manufacturing on manufacturing. And we filled offices with people who largely worked on routine tasks, similar to manufacturing. Creativity, innovation, design were cordoned off as research and development. The only major change in the landscape in 200 years was the addition of automation for productivity increases, and that's when computers came in. So we went from typewriters to computers. So computers came in, and then the perennial question of whether automation increased our productivity as human beings. The key focus has been the role that technology can play in driving industrial unlocking human potential in work, and for education, it tells a similar story.
Our industrial education system was really created for valid reasons. We created it out of a response to criticism that was leveled at industrialists who employed child labor in the early factories of the first industrial revolution. The system was designed to produce good factory workers who were obedient, disciplined, timely. We even structured their learning settings like a factory. We had the owners deciding what was most important for the children to be learning. Today, is it actually at all a wonder that engagement drops when students are trained in that same disengaging atmosphere that came out of the first industrial revolution? This wasn't always the case. Pre-industrial learning relied on the wisdom of knowledgeable people focused around just existing. We had a sage at the stage. We had a wonderful life experience that people brought with them, and that was passed down, and it was needed. We had to have that sage at the stage. However, from the first industrial revolution, we have applied industrial measures of productivity to education. Major advancements in education since the first industrial revolution have largely been directed towards industrial measures of productivity. The measure of efficiency is evidenced in growing physical class sizes, and by reproducing those online, we can use technology simply to economize without any regards for the learning taking place. The question for us all is, will we merely continue this industrial educational blueprint that we established over 200 years ago? And it does not at all have to be that way. Extended reality is certainly capable of maintaining the persistent, efficient paradigms. But what if we applied that power of this technology to instead transform education as we know it? XR could fuel a human renaissance, a renewed interest in learning and renewed engagement. How do we increase engagement in education? By ensuring that we do not return to productivity measures in our learning. The collaborative, personalized power of extended reality can be maximized in 3 ways. First is immersion. Careful designs of truly immersive experiences engage sensory processes in the brain that lay down faster, stronger emotional codings of episodic memory rather than the slower consolidation processes involved in more purely semantic memory. It's this engaging process, this immersive engagement, that makes moments with your crush so much more memorable than lists of country capitals. Simulation. Our natural instincts and responses, and this is what Alex Jackson really focused and honed in on, are processed emotionally and physiologically before our logical processing can take over. Procedural memory is stored in both our brains and our muscles when learning is done physically. Additionally, this physical involvement in immersive simulations can really increase the blood flow going to our brain and thus also increasing our engagement. Mike talked about spatial. Our brains are attuned to the sensory inputs of a three-dimensional world. Furthermore, research continues to validate the hypotheses that even factual information is processed more in a spatial form. Again, physical movements and visualizations is how our brains make sense of the world. With extended reality, we are thus engaging learners with the newest technologies, but doing so to unlock our ancient brains. Increasing engagement can truly be something that fuels a human renaissance, but the fire needs to start with us.
So foresight is imagining multiple futures and having the agency to realise them. So everyone attending this conference has it in their power to change the future. It's not written yet, and I think that's been mentioned a number of times today, as it relates to the technology and as it relates to us as humans, as it relates to education. Education fueled by 20th century industrial productivity measures will continue the disengagement of learners. XR has the power to reverse declining engagement and transform education, but like any technology, it's not the only solution. However, with the right humans behind it, its development and deployment can be. And we welcome and encourage you all to be part of this. Thank you.